For the vast majority of the population, financial life is defined by a permanent plateau. Most people exist in a state of economic stagnation that persists regardless of the decade or the political climate. When seeking the cause of this plateau, we point to external variables, a lack of capital, connections, or luck holding the curve down. These explanations provide a psychological shield, yet even when removed, the baseline stagnation frequently remains. This persistence suggests that the primary driver of financial failure is located elsewhere. It points to an internal deficit that remains even when the environment is favorable. We can identify this missing element as a specific, repeatable mindset, a way of processing information and risk that the majority of the population never develops. Relying on external excuses creates a feedback loop that reinforces this stagnation. It is a psychological state that prevents the very actions required to move the curve. If you trace any significant American success story back to its inception, you find a common starting asset. Before the first dollar was earned or the first employee was hired, there was an initial state of belief. This conviction operates independently of the current bank balance. It functions as the initial energy required to begin a move against the stagnation of the baseline. Once that belief is acted upon, the trajectory follows a predictable pattern. A brief period of progress is followed by a sharp drop into a trough of struggle and repeated failure. At this depth, the mindset acts as a processor. Instead of viewing the trough as a reason to stop, the successful individual treats each failure as a data point. They use the friction of the struggle to refine their approach, gradually generating an upward bounce. Most people follow a different path. When they hit this same trough, they interpret the struggle as a sign that they were right about their lack of resources. They stop, and the trajectory flatlines permanently at the bottom. This phase of failure serves as a filter. It is a mandatory period of pressure that distinguishes those with genuine conviction from those following a temporary impulse. This moment of struggle marks the Great Divergence. It is where daily behaviors begin to compound in two entirely different directions. When faced with difficulty, the majority tends to retreat. They spend their downtime in passive states, complaining about the difficulty or seeking the comfort of sleep to avoid the stress of the problem. While that retreat is happening, a minority is working in the margins. They are building systems and refining their skills during the hours when the rest of the world is inactive. This choice creates immediate friction. It requires a level of isolation and a willingness to trade current comfort for future capacity. There is also a hidden cost to the alternative. The act of complaining uses the same cognitive energy required for problem solving. By focusing on the unfairness of the trough, the individual loses the ability to climb out of it. Over a single day, these differences are nearly invisible. But as these microactions repeat, the gap between the two paths widens every year. Eventually, this gap becomes a massive wealth divide. It is the end result of daily choices compounded over decades of time. When we analyze these diverging paths, the influence of luck becomes a secondary factor. The outcomes are consistent with the behaviors that preceded them. We can see financial achievement as a deliberate construction. It is a result of specific inputs, belief, iteration, and persistent action, organized into a working system. This means that success is a decision. It is a choice that has to be reaffirmed every time a setback occurs or a distraction appears. Recognizing this shifting control changes everything. It places the power over the final outcome back into the hands of the person making the daily choices. The evidence of the gap is clear. The question is whether you are ready to stop looking at the external barriers and make the decision to change your own reality.